Après by Scullymurphy. Read by Ella Max Mabella. Summary. Ginny let a ski chalet in Switzerland for a pre-Christmas weekend with friends. It's beautiful, cozy and festive, but there aren't enough beds, which means Hermione and Draco will reluctantly have to share. And then, of course, they get snowed in. A Dramione fanfiction. Chapter 1. The Bombshell.
So, Draco's coming.
What? Hermione almost dropped her wineglass.
Don't give me that look,
Ginny said.
I didn't invite him.
She cut her eyes very obviously to Harry, who was pulling a roast chicken out of the oven.
Harry!
Hermione plunked her glass down and glared at his back.
He'd already heard about it from Theo, Harry said, which means you forgot to tell Theo to keep it quiet.
He pointed at Ginny, who started to sputter.
What was I supposed to say? We're all going away on a Christmas ski weekend to a big fuck-off house with more than enough room for you, and yes, all of us does include your two best friends, but you're not invited. Sorry, mate.
Oh, Neville is bringing Blaze, Hermione cut in, her thunderous look replaced by an avid stare at Ginny. That's progressing quickly, isn't it?
I know, Ginny squealed. I'm so excited for them.
She winked at Hermione before rounding on Harry.
And Potter, the reason I didn't get a chance to tell Theo to keep it quiet is that it's been just a bit busy at the paper lately. What with the election and the statute of secrecy, fuck up, I barely had time to ask him to come as he was running out to cover breaking story.
Fine. Well then, don't blame me for Draco finding out. Harry dropped a bowl of boiled potatoes on the table a bit harder than necessary.
Okay, leaving aside the question of who's to blame, the fact remains that he's coming.
Ginny grimaced at Hermione.
Please say you'll still come too.
Hermione's shoulders slumped. She picked her wine back up and took a deep drink. Do you think he'll bring someone? Maybe that healer with the legs?
Nope, that completely fizzled weeks ago,
Ginny said quickly.
My guess is that he was less than impressed with that skirt length from Ministry then too.
It wasn't a skirt, Harry chimed in, placing the chicken on the table a little more gently.
Something about her thinking Prufrock was a gravel company?
He shrugged at Ginny, who shrugged back. Hermione snorted a laugh, and they both looked at her confusedly. Nothing, just a joke, you know. Anyway, it's just my staying away plan has been working rather well, Hermione said. I've managed to avoid taking any cases he's on for nearly 6 weeks now, which means I've barely seen him in the office, and I haven't seen him socially for at least a month. I've gone almost whole days without thinking about him. I'm just worried this could set me back. There was a beat of silence, and then Harry motioned to the food. Dig in, everyone. Hermione took a bite of chicken. Delicious, Harry.
Yeah, really great, babe,
Ginny said, before turning back to Harry.
Look, I get what you're saying, but it's a big house and a big mountain. You'll barely see him. We'll be out skiing all day, and meals will be informal, loud and fast.
Especially with you and Blaze in the same room, Harry said under his breath. Hermione stifled a giggle, and Ginny gave them both the finger.
Anyway, you'll have your own room, so you can go to bed early if you don't want to stay up drinking.
Hermione blew out her breath. I guess I could just try to avoid him. There was a long silence.
Or you could just tell him how you bloody feel,
Ginny finally said. Harry groaned. Ginny, come on. You remember what happened in Barcelona? It was very clear.
It was not clear at all. In fact, I still maintain it was a cook-up, and if the two of you weren't so bloody indirect, you'd have worked it out by now.
Ginny half got up out of her chair.
In fact, I have a mind to flee him this minute and ask him myself. Ginevra Molly Weasley, so help me, if you move an inch, we will not be friends any more.
Hermione pointed her knife at Ginny. Promise you won't say anything. Ginny slumped back in her chair, looking like an unruly teenager.
Of course I won't. She straightened. Well, I do think you should just come clean. Not like Spain. No half-assed signs and signals. I mean, sit him down and tell him how you feel. I think you'd be surprised.
Hermione shook her head. She didn't think she'd be surprised at all. She could picture it now, see him cycle through shock, then contrition and compassion, seasoned with a dash of pity? No, thank you. She'd rather keep their friendship and her pride intact, even if it meant pulling back. So she could attempt to have a real life. Meet someone, be happy. She heaved a sigh and looked at Ginny and Harry. I'll have my own room.
Yes,
Ginny shouted. Okay, then I'll go. The encounter. Hermione twisted the sticky stem of her cocktail glass in her fingers, wondering how long she needed to stay at this thing to be polite. It had been 34 minutes. She'd finished one drink and chatted with 3 people. And it wasn't like she'd been that close with Helga, whose departure for the Brooks office was the reason for the gathering. Where the fuck was Daphne? She'd said she'd be here by 6. Hermione scanned the pub, taking in its red velvet walls, accented by rainbow fairy lights and kitschy Muggle Christmas gear. Funny how all things Muggle had become so popular after the war. The strains of a truly terrible Muggle Christmas carol were even warbling through the room. Hermione snorted into her glass. Not all imports from her culture were good ones. "What's so funny?" A familiar deep voice came from behind her, and Hermione froze. She closed her eyes very slowly and took a discreet breath before she turned around. "Hello," she said, feeling a tight smile overtake her features. "I didn't know you'd be here." "Funny, I knew you would." Draco's eyes crinkled, and Hermione felt her knees do that weak thing she'd been familiar with for the last 5 years. He was in a Muggle suit tonight. That beautiful silvery grey one that set off his eyes. Crisp white shirt, of course, no tie though, and his top buttons were, sigh, undone. His bright hair was closely and perfectly cropped, shorter than when she'd last seen him. "You've had a haircut," she murmured, an unholy urge to reach up and touch the sheen of it almost overtaking her. "Darling, you noticed?" With teeth glinted in the dim. She laughed. She couldn't help it. "So we're celebrating Harriet tonight?" He leaned in conspiratorially, and Hermione was suddenly bloody swamped by his scent. That elusive, warm, wintry thing she could never quite identify. She'd once rifled, half-pissed, through his medicine cabinet at a party to try and figure out what it was, but no dice. She found herself sniffing the air lightly now before she snapped herself out of it. "Helga, from White Collar. She's moving to Brooks." "Of course, Brooks, lovely city. Why haven't I seen you in 4 weeks?" Hermione coughed. "Has it been that long?" 4 weeks and 3 days. "Oh, look, there's Steph." Hermione waved, a tall blonde woman threading through the crowd, a glass of champagne in hand. Draco breathed in and out rather dramatically. "No matter," he murmured, leaning down again to speak directly into her ear. Hermione felt that whisper of his breath across her skin, cleared to the tips of her toes. "We'll have a lot of time to catch up next weekend. I'll let you beat me at Muggle board games, and there's always those long rides up the lift." Hermione looked sharply at him. "There will be no letting, and I'm not sure we'll be on the same lift. I'm a solid blue skier. I expect you'll be all about the blacks and the bumpy things." "I can adapt. Hello, Daph. Lovely to see you." Draco leaned forward to kiss Daphne on the cheek. "Draco, Hermione, sorry I'm late. Real cunt of a memo came in just as I was about to leave."
Daphne's soft cheek brushed Hermione's.
"Don't worry about it." Hermione smiled at her friend. "But I was looking for a way to make my escape before the 2 of you got here."
Draco's eyes lit. "Let's go then. Harriet will never notice. There's that great little bistro just around the corner on Nocturne."
"You two go. I'm absolutely naked."
Daphne yawned.
"And if you're leaving, I'm going to find the 3 people I need to say hello to, finish this glass very quickly, and then go home. Thea's made soup, apparently."
She looked over her shoulder.
"Shit, there's Duval. He is definitely one who needs to know I was here. Sorry to rush off. See you in Davos."
She gave them a little wave before hurrying away. Hermione didn't look at Draco, but she could feel him looking at her. "You game, Granger," he said softly. "You remember that restaurant?" Hermione could hear the half-smile in his voice, and yes, she bloody remembered the romantic candlelit restaurant. Going there alone with him now would be very bad for her plan, and her equilibrium, and her chances of long-term future happiness. She squared her shoulders and looked up at a point just past his left ear.
"Oh, sorry. Got a bit of work to finish. Really must dash."
She reached up very quickly and almost brushed his cheeks with her lips before practically sprinting away. She heard his slightly confused voice call her name as she left, but pretended she didn't. To be continued. Thank you for listening to Après by Scullymurphy. If you would like to stay up to date on upcoming chapters and stories, you can follow me on YouTube, AO3, or Spotify.